thanks so much for joining me, everybody, on the Social Priority Podcast here on Star Panda TV. I am Star Panda, and today with me is my guest, Lonerbox, who is a video essayist on YouTube and a musician. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, nice to be here.
So how did you get into YouTube?
So I started when I was, I don't know, I was quite into politics from the age of about 18. Always just kind of saw it as a kind of side interest while I was doing other things. But then as I got into kind of 2017, 18, I started to notice that there were a lot of kind of homemade political figures, whether it was video essayists or debaters. And what started as just a kind of like really strange niche of the internet kind of blew up really quickly. And I noticed it just as that was happening and started to notice figures like ContraPoints or H Bomber Guy or Sean Vids. And then I just kind of realized like, yeah, maybe I'll give this a go. I was always happy to try new things. I tried a lot of different jobs when I was in my 20s. And then I guess YouTube was just the one that stuck.
Do you feel like you've accomplished that so far, or?
Yeah, well, I just went full time not too long ago. So
oh, great.
Yeah, and like as far as I don't know, like artistic success goes, I mean, I tried my hand at like music production or songwriting or playing gigs and things like that, like lots of different kinds, and then yeah, none of it really ever took off in the same way that the YouTube thing did. So yeah, it's definitely a first for that.
So I saw that your first video on the channel was Ben Shapiro critiquing John Lennon's Imagine. Was there something that spurred you to make that video?
Yeah, it was just like I saw it had gone kind of viral. It was like it was already 3 years old at the time, I think. Was this video of Ben Shapiro on his radio show had, for some reason, on the anniversary of John Lennon's death, like the anniversary of the day that John Lennon was assassinated by a guy, Ben Shapiro decided to trash Imagine, and it just like one of John Lennon's songs, and his critique of it was just the most toothless kind of like whiny attack I'd ever heard, and loads of people have made videos about it already, but I just thought I might as well be another one, because I think I usually like to think if I'm making a video about something, I want to add at least one thing that the other videos didn't. And in the case of the John Lennon one, it was that no one really addressed the whole thing about Ben Shapiro calling it like pretentious, and whilst at the same time having very pretentious views on the musicality. So I had a music background, so I was able to talk about the musicality of it and its similarity to other songs and the musical theory behind it. Yeah, things like that. So, yeah.
Was it spur of the moment, or like did you have it turning over in your head for a while?
No, it was pretty spur of the moment. I'd already made a couple of videos. In the past. They're just not on the channel anymore because the audio wasn't that great, and I wasn't really that like I wasn't that strict with my fact checking and things like that, so there were a couple of mistakes, and I just thought with the Ben Shapiro one, that was when I started doing it regularly, although I did take like maybe 2 or 3 months between the Ben Shapiro and the next one. But yeah, I just thought like this is a good one to be the first one on the channel.
Wow, nice. Yeah, I thought that would be an interesting thing to ask you, since like a lot of people get into different kinds of fields, especially on YouTube, for different reasons. So like, yeah, spur of the moment. That's fun. So lately, you've been getting a little more involved in the social space, as I've been noticing. Is there a reason for getting involved in like let's say Twitch panels and online debates, that sort of thing?
Yeah, just there isn't much like professional justification for it, because my Twitch channel's a lot smaller than my YouTube, but I just like it. I just like arguing, and I do even if debate panels are a total shit show, um, I always feel like I pick up something, just like I might hear like some very niche argument that I hadn't heard before, or I maybe learn like how to get my own talking points a bit more honed in. But in any case, it's just fun. Like that's the main reason. Like I like the chatters and I like the communities and I like the drama as well. Most of it anyway. So yeah.
Do you like the blood sports of it?
Yeah, I like some of like yeah. I think maybe there's something about being like male or well, like most like basically male presenting that like yeah, there is something about that makes it like a bit easier. Like I don't get as much shit as other people do, but yeah, it is fun as well. I've always enjoyed a little bit of like minor toxicity. Yeah.
Do you think it's worth getting into for other people who might want to?
I couldn't say. It's pretty difficult to make a living out of, as far as I know, because debates channels are kind of like saturated now. There are lots of channels that post debates and like streams like quite regularly. So I don't know how easy it is to get into, but I'd imagine it's worth trying if you want to. As far as the blood sports drama debate pervert thing, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. I wouldn't. From my own experience, it's not for the faint of heart. Like you have to put up with quite a lot if you're going to do that.
Yeah, I personally probably wouldn't, just because it's a lot of mental capacity you need for that kind of thing, especially if you're like a minority. What kind of debates do you prefer?
That's a good question. I actually don't know. I don't really like debates where the person I'm talking to is like agreeing with me on like 99% of things, and we're just kind of trying to skirt around this one thing. Because that always feels kind of weird. I think my favorite debates are just like, I don't know. I like talking to people who are a bit like weird. I don't know, like they just have like a weird approach. I don't know how to explain it, but like not necessarily dumb, but just like they just have like a, like maybe not like formally educated, but they have a lot of like ways to look at things that are maybe they keep you on your feet, I suppose.
That makes sense.
And I do like panels as well. Panels are fun because everyone's kind of trying to get heard. So people will perform quite hard on it. And
I've seen Hippy Dippy. Everybody talks over each other. The topic for today, in the second portion of this podcast, did you want it to be the Jordan Peterson thing or the what is a woman?
Oh God. Whoa. Oh yeah, because I picked those two, didn't I? I mentioned those two. I mean, I just finished a video on the Jordan Peterson thing. But what is a woman? Like, I don't know. Tell you what, I'm going to pull my chat. I want to see what they think. Because that's a really difficult question. I feel kind of... Sorry, I just feel really irresponsible choosing one of those right now because they could both go for quite a while. Just for reference, like the Jordan Peterson one was about a tweet that he put out about Sports Illustrated swimsuit putting their first ever plus size model of Asian descent on the cover, and Jordan Peterson categorically stating that she wasn't beautiful and no amount of authoritarianism was going to make her so. And then he posted 2 studies to back it up that beauty standards are innate and not learned, even though both the studies he was referring to were talking about faces and not body shapes and sizes. And then you go in to learn about how actually, like, over history, what we consider beautiful in terms of physique has changed like constantly throughout history. I think my chat's choosing the Jordan Peterson one, so I can go with that.
That works.
But yeah, and I just thought like it was kind of interesting when it came up, because it's not very often when you'll see a tweet that looks kind of dumb on its face. Like he's just kind of, it's just this like sort of has been sort of grumpy old man on Twitter just saying like he's angry that the big girl is on a Sports Illustrated thing, even though like there's definitely like he's tried to justify it on the grounds of health, even though I don't think her weight is at a level of like unhealthy. Like she's just a bit big, and him trying to use academic citations to prove that he's right about something he's like so obviously wrong on, if you just have any basic understanding of like art history or just like Western beauty standards over time. But I think what was so interesting about it was just that like there was so much to say, whether it was like it reminded me that I had a book in my house called Fearing the Black Body, and it's about the racial origins of fat phobia by a lady called Sabrina Strings. And someone gave the book to me like a year ago, and I just completely forgot to read it, and I just forgot that it existed, and then it, looking at that tweet reminded me of it, so I decided to just read the whole thing and then made a video about it. So I do like those kind of sudden moments where just like a silly Jordan Peterson tweet can get you to make a whole video.
Oh yeah,
and read a full book, because reading books is hard. You know, people don't do it that much anymore.
I feel that. So yeah, the Jordan Peterson thing, it was ridiculous when it started. I don't understand what spurred him to actually say something like that, especially like there's so many different reasons that people could be a little larger, and there are so many people who like a larger person for themselves, and it just, I don't know, he didn't make much sense there to me.
Yeah, and it's really weird that someone who does have an academic background just like didn't seem to know that like the Western civilization that he likes to always kind of like gesture towards did at one point, not even that long ago, like big girls. Like that was like the epitome of beauty in the Renaissance, was
right,
like girls with like wide hips, and like they were big. Yeah,
those
they
wide
were, like,
birthing hips.
And, yeah. And if you go back even further, like Venus of Wollendorf, which is like tens of thousands of years ago, like she was huge, you know, because I think the size was like, I think it was Rubens the painter, like I think even like a big girl in a painting to this day is called like Rubenesque. And from that book I was reading, I learned quite a lot about how even early on, when black slave women started to come to Europe, their bodies were fetishized as well. There were some artists even like who were, you know, very racist, but they actually thought black women had like better bodies than white women almost. And I think there's one artist especially, I can't remember, is Albrecht Dürer, the German guy, who wrote a book about human proportions. And if you look at his image of the normal woman, she's like big, you know, she's got like really wide hips and like a big ass and everything. Yeah. And that's still carried on like even past the Renaissance, but like there's a reason it stopped being a thing, and it wasn't any kind of like health reason or innate desire for skinny girls, you know. That was like, I mean, we can go into, if you want me to go further, I can go into like, I can just summarize the whole thing for you if you want.
Let me just say, as
go on.
I am a trans woman, and
Okay.
Like after coming out years ago and looking at all the beauty standards that we've had today, it's just been like kind of a journey, you know, because the thing that has like surprised me most is how much I don't like my belly, but everyone has a belly. Like even like the skinny girls, and like I think there was a video that Noah Samson did on like this right-wing TikToker who was like yelling at fatter people, and he mentioned that there was like, I went down this rabbit hole of how like there are these women who have these different body types with the larger bellies and stuff like that, and especially since today, we just have like, it's a lot of beauty standard.
Yeah, like it's difficult because like we're in kind of a stage now where I think like more beauty standards are kind of accepted now than probably in quite a while. Like I even remember being a kid and it was like pretty narrow what you saw on TV, you know, or even in magazines and all that. So like the fact that like I don't even think the concept of plus size model was a thing when I was young. At least I never heard of it. But yeah, it's really, I just think it's so much more interesting when you actually look at why that was the case. This is actually something I didn't know until like just like a couple of weeks ago. But one of the big things that did it in Europe was the Protestant Reformation, because the whole point of the Protestant Reformation was like a lot of it was just to try and be as opposite to the Catholic Church as possible. And one of the things was that they always saw the Catholic Church as being kind of overindulgent when it came to eating. And then part of the Protestant ethic was the idea that if you were eating, especially if you were eating kind of like dense food that made you tired, then you were taking yourself away from the work of God. Like you weren't able to pursue like your faith if you were tired from overeating. So there became this whole thing of like, if the skinnier you were, the better Christian you were. Like it was a sign of discipline and like self-control. So even then, like just on purely like religious grounds, that was a big part of why like all of a sudden when fat men used to be respected, it was now like fat men and women were seen as like sinful and maybe even like dangerous, you know?
Was it back then that like skinnier, it might have been further back, but I think at one point skinnier people were seen as like lesser and poor?
Yeah, that was before the Reformation. Yeah, if you were skinny, like even when it came to racism as well, because there was this whole thing about like when race, like very early race scientists drew a distinction between slaves from like Western Africa and slaves from the South, because they decided that slaves from the South were really skinny and slaves from the West were like kind of big, and then there was like a racial hierarchy even within Africans. And there were a few like old, when I was reading about it, there were like a few even like very old slurs that I'd never even heard of before. One of them was actually just referring to very skinny, like kind of gaunt black people, yeah, from South Africa. So
yeah. Yeah, I also remember like even paintings back then, they portrayed way more like diverse bodies, like larger bodies of women, and like just accentuating all the roles that you could see. But yeah, that's really interesting. I'm pretty excited to see your video, honestly.
yeah, cool. It should be out tomorrow. Yeah, I think I need to. It's one of those things where I forgot one kind of important fact, and I might just have to re-export the whole thing to get it in. But
Makes sense.
yeah, it's nothing new.
Yeah. For the third portion, we are going to do some current events. So they already had a gun control law in the House that passed. The Congress website.
Okay.
In this one, it looks like something that we actually want, like with the raising ages, preventing gun trafficking, and mostly keeping people safe through like making it stricter on how you keep your guns in a safer place away from your kids or somebody who's not supposed to have them. And then compare that to some of the things that are in the legislation that they want to put through in the Senate. It just seems like they're lacking a lot of things, like in even the framework that they have. Notably, the age restrictions for like anyone under 21 being able to get like a semi-automatic rifle or something like that. And like background checks for them, universal background checks for everybody, actually. So did you have any thoughts on that, or?
Yeah, like I always wonder because it's really hard for me to talk about guns as someone from Scotland because like the story for us was so simple. Like handguns were already quite hard to get before up until the 90s. I think you can only really use them for like shooting ranges and a few other uses. But one guy from somewhere in the center of Scotland went into a school and shot 17 kids, their teacher, and then himself. Might have been 16, can't remember. And then almost immediately after, like, we banned handguns. That was it. It was just, yeah, we were done with them. And I don't really know if there was that much opposition either. There's like a few, and now like in every town, like every old gun shop that's now something else has like a story. Like there's one where I'm from, which is like a guy went in with a shotgun. The guy went in with cartridges, didn't tell the person in the shop that he had them, prompted the guy to go into the back to look for something, then took out a shotgun from under the desk and shot himself in the head. And
Jesus Christ.
yeah, and then that shop had to close. There was just like one story after another that like, yeah, guns were just never that popular here. We don't really have the same history with them that they do in America. Like there's no Scottish freedom revolution that was won with people with muskets or anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I wish they were pretty... Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, whenever they talk about it in America, it's just like usually when I see gun legislation that like I feel like people attack things that might not be necessarily helpful, but as far as I know from the limited research I've looked at is like things that do work are like age restrictions and like stronger vetting systems like mental health checks and things like that. Like just like very simple things like that are like quite effective for gun control. But yeah, I don't really know how you solve it in America. Like yeah.
I wish everything was so straightforward as it is there here in America. But yeah, it's just been so frustrating over I don't know how long since I've been alive, really. But yeah, I think one good thing that they have going on is the red flag laws. Those are in both of those legislation. One thing missing from the bill that actually went through the House was the mental health stuff. I noticed. I don't know why they wouldn't have that in there, but like, I don't know. I think overall, we should have like a better focus on the mental health stuff, but it doesn't seem to be in the House bill. So,
is there like I don't know, because I whenever I hear things like this, I always just anticipate what like the right wing like counter might be, and it's like, is there anything like people who commit mass shootings are like we don't find out about their mental health issues until afterwards, or is there? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think
Yeah.
that's true. Um, although there have been so many red flags with every mass shooter. Like they will post it on 4chan or Reddit or something, and like there are people who report it, and it really depends on who, or if the police are going to respond to it, and I think that's also ridiculous. Like they should be responding to it if there is a red flag there, but I'm hoping we'll see some changes happen.
Yeah, it feels like a very common occurrence. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's see. You've probably seen this story. Let me link it. 31 members of a white supremacist group.
I actually
Being-
heard about it. I didn't see it. Yeah. I didn't read it. Yeah.
Yeah, they were basically caught going to a pride event in Idaho.
Okay. Oh, they were trying to start a riot.
Yes, they were in the back of a U-Haul trying to start a riot at the pride parade or pride event, whatever you want to call it. And basically, the only reason they were caught was someone had seen these 31 people piling into the back of the U-Haul truck. So
Okay.
we were
Wait,
pretty lucky.
why do they have like, why does one of them have a Reclaim America t-shirt? I thought, yeah, one of them's got Reclaim America. Why wouldn't they dress up more like gay if they wouldn't want to get caught?
I don't know. I think they're just out in the open at this point. Like they don't care who knows, or they care that the people they're trying to impress knows. Like these people are from Patriot Front, and
Okay.
they want to like stir up as much shit as they want to, or they can, I guess.
Yeah, it's really hard to make sense of that. Like, how stupid can you be?
Yeah. But I'm really glad they were caught, because at a pride event, I don't know, there's a lot of people who could get hurt. There was kids there.
Yeah.
Like things could have ended up pretty bad. And the right wing, I don't know what they would say except for like, this is probably Antifa or something, you know?
Yeah, but I do sometimes hear people on the left saying that they want like Pride to go back to being a riot, but it's like, well, yeah, it's like the point in it being a riot was because it had to be a riot at one
Yeah.
point because the police were so violent. But like, no, I mean, yeah, Pride's a peaceful event, but it's actually, I'm just really thankful that I had no idea that they were actually trying to incite a riot, but they were dressed up like right wingers. Like how I can't get over it. Is that did I miss something, or is that actually what happened? Was that not part of why they fucked up? Because like they look like they're in uniform, you know, and they've all got the same baseball caps on. And
Yeah,
like,
I don't
trousers and like what?
I don't know.
I mean, at the very least, like Antifa were smart enough to dress like conservatives when they did January 6th, you know.
Yeah.
That's a joke, but you know, at least the Antifa guys were smart enough to wear Viking horns and carry fucking staves around and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it troubling sometimes that they're just this blatant about it. Because like I'm so many things. Like I'm Black, Hispanic, Native American, trans, lesbian. I'm like everything. So like these people being so blatant about it, just like saying, hey, we're gonna do this to a pride parade and try to start riots and stuff like that. It's just troubling in this country. Like you see more and more people sort of saying the same thing on the right. Like with recently there was also the demonstration at the what was it, the ice cream parlor or the gay bar, or whatever it's called. Um,
Oh, the drag show.
yeah, the drag show.
Yeah.
Like they had rented out that area. The parents, I believe. I don't know actually. I shouldn't say that for sure. But
Hmm?
the people who were holding the drag show rented it out from those people, the people who owned the gay bar, and
Okay.
people got wind of that. I don't know how. I probably have to look that up, but they got wind of that and started demonstrating in front of the place it was being held, and basically just some of them were trying to get inside, and I don't know what they were going to do. They were it just scared a lot of kids, and it's just very troubling lately.
Yeah, and it's not really surprising that they're doing that now because of the amount of like fear mongering that's being done around that.
Yeah.
Like, I think someone was telling me not long ago, it was like a private call, but it made perfect sense. It was like the question was kind of just like, why have the Republicans suddenly just gone from like zero to a million on
Yeah.
LGBT stuff? And I actually thought like a really good explanation for it is just that the last couple of elections have kind of shown them that it's not really in their favor anymore to pick on Hispanic and Black voters as much as it used to be, because they're finding out that a lot of these voters are quite socially conservative, and maybe if the Republicans stop being so racist, then they'll have a lot more luck with those demographics.
If
Whereas LGBT people are never becoming conservative, like never.
yeah.
And it's also, you've got that plus I think a lot of like Republican voters are either rural or like in very like red states, and most of them have never like seen a trans person like in real life. So it's so much easier to other them or to fearmonger about them, because I think with most people, like most Republican voters, I don't really buy this whole thing about like, I don't know if you've heard much about the trans genocide or whatever the fuck like is
Oh
going on
yeah.
online. I don't really believe that like most Republicans believe what they believe like about queer people like out of just like some kind of like inhuman hatred, you know. I think a lot of it is like um I think maybe if they meet and like interact with queer people and like LGBT people, then they might like, and they can still keep that up. That's kind of like, that's pretty dark, but from my experience, like it doesn't take that much like exposure to nullify a lot of that, which is really sad because like America's a really big country, and I think it's really hard to get that exposure to happen, you know?
Yeah, with some of the laws that are coming out, I think for the some of the Republicans, the point is to keep people in the closet.
Mm.
So more Republicans aren't learning, hey, like these people are just people, you know? Like it's just rough for the United States right now in that regard.
Yeah, and it's also just like, I guess like the more they succeed, then the more people, it's like a kind of self-fulfilling cycle, you know. The more they succeed in keeping people in the closet, and the more people stay in the closet, and then the more the less exposure there is, and then the more fear mongering there is. And yeah, um it's such a difficult thing to, like, the thing I don't understand though is just like uh whenever, because I do have like, I'm kind of like I'm from the 90s, like I've got a lot of socially right leaning friends in real life.
Yeah.
But even when the trans issues and stuff like that comes up with them, it's not that they necessarily understand exactly like what a trans person is or like how it works or all that, but the answer I usually get from them when they ask about it is just like, who cares? Like, why do you care what someone else is like doing? Like, oh, change pronouns. Like, what the fuck? Why? Okay, sure. Like, but I always feel like there's such a difference between like that kind of ignorance and then the other, which is like, you know, they're coming for your kids or whatever.
Mm,
Yeah, it's quite worrying.
yeah. Um Do you want to do like a shorter thing about like what is a woman type of thing?
Uh, oh God, no. We can stick on this one for longer if you want. Actually, I'd rather do that
Yeah, we could do
because,
that. Yeah.
like, from your experience, like,
Yes.
what I'm kind of fed up of hearing people talk about, like, okay, when people talk about like arming trans people just in case uh the worst comes to worst, like that's fine, that's based. Everyone should. If you're in America, if I was in America, I'd arm myself. All right, like you never know. But um, I'd rather that if trans people are arming themselves, I'd rather those guns just kind of like sat in the closet and like, ironically, and just kind of collected dust, you know. And there were other solutions. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think should be like a kind of like like as far as stopping things like these bills from happening, or maybe just kind of like taming that like Republican rage that's happening right now? What do you think is like a good way to go about it?
Um. Well, I think like what we were saying before, people just need to come into contact with more trans people and gay people and stuff like that. It's it's interesting, like what exposure can do to people. Um, I know that in the history of the United States, it's been like uh, integration has been basically the best thing for like just anti-racism, because like people, more and more people are um, basically being exposed to all these like black people, and I think we need the same thing like nowadays, because like if you look at the legislation happening, I think in Ohio there was one preventing one trans girl from in the state from actually joining a sports team, and
Yeah.
it's basically doing their best to keep people in the closet. And as long as they do that, they don't have to reckon with like civil rights type of things. More and more people being like just more and more people realizing, hey, that's a person, you know. But yeah, I on the having being like armed and stuff, I'm more of a pacifist. Like
Mm.
uh just like on principle. I won't try to hurt people unless they're trying to hurt me. But like yeah, it's like a weird position to be in, because like I am afraid for my life sometimes, because like all these people are coming out, like this story we had on the 31 members in the U-Haul. It's just, yeah, I don't know what we'll do overall. I think we just need to speak out more. We need more people to be able to speak to others. Like it's rough online too, because like trans people, I understand that there's some trans people who like can't put themselves in that position to educate others. Like I try to do my best to tell others, like, hey, we're out here and like this is how we want to experience life. But like there are people even on the left who are saying that we need to like reckon with this and like talk to people who hate us. And I can understand those trans people who don't want to, you know, like I want people to leave that to the advocates and stuff like that. Like if they should, those people who are online and on Twitter, like if they're arguing with someone or just want someone to leave them alone, they should probably point them to, I'd say, I'm blanking on specific examples, but like any like resources if people have questions about it, you know?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of lesbians and gays support the miners?
I have not.
All right. It's just my chat's heard it a million times, but I'm telling it again. It's it's about a group of gay activists in the 80s from London who started a fundraiser to support striking coal miners.
Mm,
Uh, the coal miners were very left wing, but they were also very culturally conservative because it was the 80s.
right.
So they were not friends of gays, but all the same, they tried to fundraise for them anyway. They were rejected by every union branch apart from one in like a small village in Wales, and I'm pretty sure it was an accident as well. Like the wrong person picked up the phone. Yeah. They end up doing it, like this fundraiser. They go to Wales into like this really small village where they've never seen a gay person before, and they go and give their little like go to their union meeting, and then they host like an all day event in London, and that raises like an obscene amount of money for supporting the miners because they've been on strike for ages. They were all going hungry and shit. And the miners lost, but shortly after that strike, there was a pride march in London, and like basically unannounced, because this story had gone around the country. Um, Basically, every union in the country, like every mining union branch in the country, sent buses of people down to lead the demo. There were so many of them that they had to be the ones in front. So you have this pride march in London in like 1985 that's led by the Union of Mine Workers.
Mm,
And actually, when the Labour Party put gay rights into their program, it was only because the miners' union voted unanimously for it in a block
wow.
vote. Yeah. And it's really annoying because like that's like what there's a whole film about it. It's like, yeah, it's probably one of the best films I've ever seen, if not the best.
Do you know what it's
And
called?
it's really like, yeah, it's called Pride,
Oh, okay.
2014.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like it's just such a good story. The only thing I like don't like about it as well is just that like it's basically kind of saying that like if you're LGBT or something and you want the support of like the sides of like the kind of groups that are maybe likely to vote against you, is just to like roll this big dice and try to like offer some kind of like intersectional olive branch, you know, and just kind of say, I don't know what the equivalent would be in America of like, I don't know, like trans West Virginians support the striking manual laborers or whatever the fuck's going on over there, you know, or like in Ohio, like suddenly you see like a trans picket backing, I don't know, like I don't know where like different industries are in America. But the problem with that, of course, is like if you're going to do that, then you've got to like make sure you're well protected, because
Yeah.
any of those queer activists going into that Welsh mining town could have come back like hospitalized, you know.
Yeah.
And there were a few scuffles as well. Like there was a lot of like it wasn't just like breezy, you know. But
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point. Like, oh, even like for everybody, I would say we should probably get a little more involved in like local politics. Just going to like council meetings and stuff like that, just to like have our voices a little more heard. But like even for trans people, like if they're comfortable enough, I'd like to see more people go to those meetings, and like, because like I've seen so many videos of like the socially conservative people being like, hey, this stuff is going on in schools and we want you to stop it because they're LGBT. And I think that's basically what's been pushing through the legislation that's been happening to undermine trans and LGBT rights. But yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, it's difficult because it's like either you just. Well, I mean, the good news about America is that like most like there's still more Democrats than Republicans, even
Yeah.
though some states. Like there's obviously there's no hope for quite a while, but like yeah, it feels really difficult in those more difficult states because I feel like there is maybe it doesn't even have to be an activism thing, but I think there is maybe sometimes like a rhetorical thing because I only speak like this because I feel like I've got a lot more influence over one side than the other, so it sometimes sounds like I'm being really extra critical of the left, but it's like it's kind of because I feel like I have to be. But I always think there's a kind of rhetorical problem there of like if you're LGBT and you like you might be in a position or in a state or a legislature where you need to get votes or like support from people usually like maybe working or like lower middle class like Republicans or even some like right-leaning Democrats. You need to get support of people who think you're against them, like who think that you're like trying to make their lives worse, which is really difficult. And I think maybe sometimes for very understandable reasons people might respond and say, well, yeah, fuck you, like redneck, like racist or bigot, whatever. Like, yeah, it just becomes this kind of difficult thing where I don't really know if like if there's any kind of like common interest that can be appealed to there, but it's hard to say because it's a different country, you know. I don't really know if the same issues persist like there as they do here.
Yeah, I think the thing with these kinds of issues in the online age, in the internet age, we have people who can get their social like social urges, I guess, to like online. They can get their social urges online and basically don't want to go out at all. You know, I'm probably one of those people. I need to get out more a little bit. But yeah, I think probably going to some of those union meetings, going to like just local events to get yourself seen. Obviously keeping yourself safe is probably the best move that we can do. 'Cause like if they're not seeing us, if they're believing everything that the cable news hosts on the right are saying, then like I think we've pretty much lost, you know.
Yeah. There's like some contention in my chat about what the polling is right now. It looks like U.S. adults are still pretty like hand in hand over like the whole I don't know what, even like just like over self-identification and stuff like that. So like legal self-identification. But
there's a lot of support for it.
Much more of
it's just the people in office either don't see that or don't want to see that. You know, like we're seeing all these laws because there are people who support it on that side of the aisle. Yeah, I don't know what we do besides that, except like maybe more people on the left like running for office in local districts and stuff like that.
I have been considering this for a while, is like maybe using like the kind of platforms of bigger streamers to maybe get instead of some like all the doom and gloom and all that. Because like I did some Googling not long ago. It's actually quite easy to find out who your local legislator is, like in any part of America, and also to find out all the bills that they're behind, and also like even getting their email addresses, like just like takes a couple of minutes, and then you can like, and usually people like that are looking for volunteers for like canvassers, or if not that, then there's like a billion mutual aid groups you can like donate to as well. So I've been definitely thinking a lot more about what to do with the streaming space with that, because I think with streaming there's a lot of potential for like mobilizing people, but it's not really getting used. And I think an issue like this is quite a good one, because it's very easy to get like the left online doesn't really agree with each other on much, but I think as far as these bills go, it's pretty unanimous, you know. From like liberal all the way to the left, you know.
You actually bring up a good point. Mutual aid groups might be a safer option for some people who want to help out. Like people who need help are going to see that like LGBT people are helping out and like trying to do their part, and like maybe that will give that sort of sense that maybe they're not that bad, you know. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, that was a really interesting. I didn't expect it to take that turn at the end, but
Yeah.
it's definitely like, I think, yeah, at least where I am now, like my main focus now is like, even if it's video essays or like Twitch stuff, is like, I feel like there needs to be more translation as to like, okay, we don't like this thing, but what the hell do you do about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on. Go ahead and replug your stuff.
Yeah, sure. Lonerbox. You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, whatever. Do you want to shout yourself out to my stream? I don't know if you've sent me any links, but you can drop them in the chat if you have any.
Sure. I don't think I have your chat up right now.
You can put them in the Discord DM. I can do it.
Oh, sure. This is the Social Priority Podcast, and it's going to be posted to Star Panda TV on YouTube.